Okay. All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Michael Cotta, and I'm the tree warden for the town of Darien, Connecticut. Tonight's public hearing concerns the removal of 9 trees in the public right-of-way adjacent to Nearwater Lane. And I'll go through that list. At 77 Nearwater Lane, we posted a sugar maple for removal. At 129 Nearwater Lane, we posted 4 pin oaks, 2 silver maples. And at 141 Nearwater Lane, we posted one American elm. And I think 1 Brushy Hill, which is across from 150 Nearwater Lane, we posted a white ash.
Brush Island.
Well, Brush Island, that's Brush Island, I'm sorry. The trees were posted on August 1st, 2024, as required by law per Connecticut General Statute, Section 2359. The town received 2 written objections to the tree removals within 10 days. Connecticut General Statute, Section 2359 requires that the tree warden hold a public hearing at some suitable time and place after giving reasonable notice to those parties known to be interested in the matter. Notification of this public hearing has been sent to those known interested parties and to those in the immediate vicinity of the subject trees. Notification of this public hearing has also been posted on the subject trees. Individuals present this evening will be given 1 opportunity to be heard on this matter. The tree warden will render a decision within 3 days of the close of the public hearing. No decision will be made at this public hearing. Any party aggrieved by the tree warden's decision will have 10 days to appeal to the Superior Court. Again, everyone present this evening will have 1 opportunity to make a statement. Before making a statement, we'd like to ask that you please identify yourself by name and address for the record. And I guess we can go and just go to the front row. Darren, how do you want to do it?
Yes.
I want to go that way and across. Would you like to speak?
Who wants to speak?
You can use the
Come on up.
podium.
I didn't figure this would happen. Okay, I have been looking at these trees. First
Can you
of all,
state your name and address, please?
pardon? Oh, I'm sorry, Jane Schmidt, 3 Pratt Island, Darien.
Jane Smith.
And I have known these trees for 80 years, which is kind of long. I don't think anyone else has got that record. And there are 2 trees that I can understand, and I don't know how to identify them, but that are buckling the path, which is why I assume that you want to take the trees down so that you can make a safe path for people to walk. The first 3 or 4 trees are not impeding anything, but the tree that I am most interested in is the one that's at 141 Nearwater. It's a very huge, I don't know what kind it is.
That's the American elm.
Pardon?
That's the American elm tree. That's the
Well,
one.
it is a
It's the
magnificent.
only one with that address. Sorry to interrupt.
It's a magnificent tree, and it really is not impeding. And I think I would hate to have to put my naked body up there and see who we go through, because I really do not wish to see this cut down. And I think there's plenty of room there, but that's my main tree. The others are, I don't know them as well. This tree I know, and he does not want to be cut down. Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to be doing, yeah, you right next to Jane that sat down. Would you like to speak? Would you like to pass? Would you like to speak?
I'll speak. I'm Anna Resnansky. I live on Wakeman Road in
What's the name
Darien.
again?
Excuse me?
What's the name again?
Anna Resnansky. Resnansky. I'm a member of the DCA Garden Group, and that's partly why I am here. I was driving on Nearwater Lane the other day to go to Weed Beach, and I was noticing all the trees that you had recommended for removal. And I definitely agree with the First Lady who spoke, who lives on Pratt Island, that it seemed to me that there would be a couple of them that were really buckling and causing the hot top to impede a safe passage. I also felt like, do we really need a 5-foot passage? I mean, that's as tall as I am. And I thought, maybe 3.5, 4 feet might save some of these trees. I don't live there, but I often drive there because I have a kayak that I keep at the beach there. And I would hate to see all those trees removed because they do beautify the area, as well as offer oxygen to people like myself. So for those particular reasons, I would like to see maybe a less wide pathway, because I think I don't need 5 feet to walk on a sidewalk. And I noticed boys on their electric bikes and scooters, and, they were navigating it, but they're teenagers, of course. And I certainly agree with the First Lady that the two that I saw that were buckling the pavement, I felt, okay, those could be removed, but I question your removal of the others. So that's my consideration tonight.
Thank you. Would you like, you want to speak? Yeah, please take the podium.
Thank you. I'm sure you have an agenda tonight, but
Name and address, please. Name and address for the record.
I'm sorry.
We have to get your name and address for the record.
Bob Noonan, 135 Nearwater Lane. Okay, and so I have a number of questions. Number one, can you tell us a little bit about what does a tree warden do? What is your history of being a tree warden? Do you have a tree warden committee? Are you a member? Are you appointed by the town or the state, or what? Talk about your qualifications for being the tree warden.
I'm appointed by the Public Works Director. Qualifications, you have to be a licensed arborist, and I've also gone through the certified tree warden school. Outside of that, it's not a lot of, it's mostly time and experience. People know a little bit about trees. You can have the assistant director try to answer some of those questions. I've been a tree warden here since 2000, I believe, and I've been involved in tree work in town since the 70s as a teenager, and I've worked pretty much through the 80s and 90s. So I've been around a while.
Okay, thank you. Can you give me an update on why you chose to do this now? Were there a bunch of complaints, or just some inspection by you and your committee, or what?
Those trees were posted because they want to do construction. They want to produce. They want to redo the sidewalk. The engineers wanted it posted because they were in conjunction with its sidewalk interference.
But is that driven by complaints from the citizens of Darien?
Excuse me?
Yeah.
The reason for doing this, did you have people coming to the tree warden and complaining about?
No, that probably goes through Public Works. You can ask Darren. You want to speak on that, Darren?
Yeah, sure. Our sidewalk program is generated by our inspection. 35. We look at sidewalks around town and we prioritize what sidewalks need to be replaced. We also have to apply ADA standards, minimum widths, things like that. This sidewalk has been on our list for a long time. We took care of the upper part. You might notice there's north of Nickerson, the sidewalk is nice and new. And between Nickerson and Brush Island, that's a sidewalk we hope we could take care of this year.
Well, I'm not a tree warden, but I have noticed over the last week, there are as many as 7 trees that are impinging the sidewalk from the post road to Woodland, which is exactly the same amount of trees that are impinging the sidewalk from Nickerson to my house. So why would you choose one over the other?
We can't do them all at once.
I'm sorry?
We can't do them all at once. We'd like to.
So there's a plan to continue the,
It's not just complaints. It's protecting the town from lawsuits, from slip and falls, from roots raising the sidewalk. And we just want to take care of our sidewalks when we see a
okay,
sidewalk that's in
I've been
disrepair.
living in town for over 50 years and on Nearwater for close to 30. Have you had a lot of suits because of the sidewalk?
On Nearwater?
Yeah.
On Nearwater Lane? I can't think of any.
So you're cutting down the trees to prevent something that you don't have any experience with?
Oh, we have experience being sued.
Well, I thought I just asked you if anybody has been sued.
Yeah, we don't want to wait until we get sued.
So it's preventative, you're telling me?
In addition to that, as I mentioned, we're looking for ADA compliance, American Disabilities Act, and PROAG, where there's certain minimum widths on the sidewalk. We look at our sidewalks, and if there's a sidewalk in disrepair or in need of attention, it goes on a list, and we try to whittle away at the list. As I said, we can't do them all. You're absolutely correct. The northern part of Nearwater, that's on our list too. We just can't do it right now.
Well, you know, as I said, I've been living here for close to 30 years on Nearwater, okay? And you're telling me there's no other alternatives to fix the bumps on the sidewalk besides cutting down the trees?
I'm telling you that sidewalk is hopefully a priority for us. It's something that we've been looking at for a long time. And it's not just the bumps. There's width requirements. There's certain portions of the sidewalk where it's not wide enough between the sidewalk and the wall.
I don't know, it just seems to me that you're doing a lot of damage for reasons that are unreasonable to me. Oh. All right, well, thank you for your time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you next.
I'm Juliet Kane, 81 Locust Hill Road, and I'm part of the reason why we have this public hearing, because I was one of the people who objected to the tree removals. And as much as anything else, obviously I want to protect trees, but I also wanted to have a discussion about it. And I'm really glad that we are actually having a discussion, because my experience with public hearings is it's a 3-minute, you get to speak, and then the decision is made and there isn't a dialogue. I was just thinking, if you could imagine that every tree had its own lawyer, this room would be jam-packed. I mean, it's already pretty full, and so I'm impressed with this. But I would like to just address a couple of the points that have been made, so I'm going completely off what I had planned to talk about. But Elizabeth Mathis from the Darien Land Trust and I have met with Ed Gentile and with John Zagrodzki, who our first selectman. And because, I'm an advisor to the Land Trust, and Elizabeth is executive director of the Land Trust, and I'm with the Pollinator Pathway, and we care very much about preserving the natural resources in our town. And the Land Trust, a part of the Land Trust property abuts Nearwater Lane too. So we walked, we did it twice with John and with Ed, and we had extensive discussions, and these were fantastic discussions, really collaborative. And to the point of the ADA requirement of the 5-foot sidewalk, there are exceptions where you can go down to 3, as long as you have passing spaces at regular intervals. And what we have tentatively agreed, obviously subject to the results of the hearing tonight, is that, I think, I shouldn't say tentatively agreed, we are in a position where we have discussed retaining at least half of these trees. And in order to do that, the sidewalk will either be rerouted slightly, either out towards the road or into a neighboring property, and the property owner has agreed that in 2 places the sidewalk can get pushed into her property, and that saves 3 trees. I think it's also going to reroute around the tree that you like, yes, that you like, 141, the American elm. Now, a couple, and what we've also discussed is having a really robust planting plan, replanting plan for the trees that can't be saved. And we've already talked to at least one of the neighbors about putting some trees on her property. It isn't the case that you can do a 1-for-1 swap. You don't get the same benefits from a sapling that you would get with a large mature tree. So it may be that we have to do several trees to replace one tree, but I think we can work on that and be reasonable. So I think there is a way to keep the most beautiful of these trees and to adjust the sidewalk. I think there may be an inevitability with the 2 trees that where the sidewalk, I think somebody mentioned, is just about 2 feet, and there's a big stone wall. So for my part, I am comfortable with the compromise that we discussed with John and with Ed, but the bigger picture that worries me is the reliance that this town has on citizen advocates like myself, like Elizabeth and many others in the room. We don't seem to have an embedded framework that respects and protects our natural resources. And I don't think it's practical or sustainable to rely on us. I mean, we didn't know that Parks and Recs were going to take down trees at Weed Beach. We didn't have a seat at the table at the Thorndale Circle development discussions, and nor would we. We're not involved in that. But there's another situation where we're going to lose some 50 plus trees. And what is the replanting plan? A rain garden isn't going to do that. Now, I have some hope because the Board of Selectmen has a stated goal of maintaining the density of the tree canopy in town, and I think that is fabulous. I'm going to enjoy watching that happen. And we also have the update of the town's plan of conservation and development that is about to start. And I think that document can be really transformative for the town. That could become an instruction manual. It could sit on people's desks, not on people's shelves. We need to make it a working document that people look at. And so the town can start to look at all of its infrastructure and development projects through an environmental lens. So they ask, how do we accomplish this project with minimal, or preferably no damage to the environment? What do we need to do to adapt the project to achieve that result? That's the kind of thinking that I would like to see happen, and we can't have that. We can't have a working document, in my view, unless we have an embedded structure, and whether that's rules and regulations, policies or procedures, whether we charge existing commissions with implementation, or we have a new commission. I don't think it really matters as long as the town is committed to conservation and to protecting our natural resources. But I think the time is right now to try to make up for all of the development we've had an extraordinary amount, and it's still ongoing. And we have lost trees, and I think we've obviously increased our impervious surface, which means our temperatures are going to be even higher. We've already got the highest increase of any town in Fairfield County or New Haven County, and we increase the risk of flooding. So our natural resources are going to help us become more resilient, help us fight climate change, and maybe if we have those embedded structures, we can avoid our public hearings, because it'll all be done for us. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Mathis. I'm the Executive Director of the Darien Land Trust, 140 Heights Road. The Land Trust appreciates the opportunity to give input on this matter, and Juliet and I did not compare notes, and they're very similar. So you'll be hearing it again. As was stated, we have a mature sugar maple located within the town of Darien right-of-way and it is directly in front of our property at 77 Nearwater Lane. As she mentioned, we have also participated on several site visits and met with the town officials to understand the particular concerns and discuss possible solutions for each tree location because they differ. I am optimistic that several trees will be saved, basically by relocating the sidewalk to come around the tree or by relocating another impediment like a stone wall. I would also like to mention, as Juliet did, that there is tremendous value in keeping a mature tree in place, even if it is for the short term. There are ecological benefits including stormwater absorption, increased soil stability, water purification, extensive shading, and habitat preservation for hundreds of insects and birds. To replace a mature tree with a young, immature tree is not a one-for-one exchange. The replanting program, as it was described to me, could begin actually before the mature tree is removed, so that we're not talking about planting all trees of one age in place of those trees that were removed. Having different ages, a sequential planting ensures for longevity of the tree canopy. We were also informed that the replanted trees will be native, and I thank you for that. I thank the Commission for thinking that through. That's extremely important for us in the long term. And the Land Trust is happy to offer our expertise in this area and even our lands as place for some of the replanting if it cannot be done in the neighbor's property or in the location where the tree was removed. Thank you.
I guess we're gonna try to go over to the second row right now. And usually we start right,
Sure. Hi. I'm David Joyella from, go up to the mic. Hi, I'm David Joyella from 86 Nearwater, and I think there's two sides to the story. We all want to save the trees, but we want to make the sidewalk safe. So some of us have small kids. I think they're in the back row there, and we use the sidewalk a lot to get from the beach to the school, to the post road, and it's really dangerous right now the way it is. So if there's a way to mitigate taking the trees down while still fixing the sidewalk, I think that's the best case. If there's not, it's a really dangerous situation the way it is for kids to walk and to ride their bikes. So I think, I have filed complaints about the sidewalk to the town. I don't know if other people here have as well. So I think that when you're looking at small kids, it's a grade school, they can't always ride over the bumps. So they have an issue, have to go into the street. You have cars who go very fast on Nearwater. Creates a situation for safety. So I guess the question is there a way to, and it sounds like there is, save some of the trees, but also do the sidewalk program in a way that's safe for kids to get to school. Really, most of the kids who are living in the Bay and Nearwater use that if they're walking or riding their bikes daily, a few times a day. And I think it's about time to fix it. I mean, we all see what the safety issues are if you walk that section of the street. So,
Excuse me, are bicycles supposed to be on the sidewalk?
kids who ride the bike, like,
I know what they do. Are they supposed to be on the sidewalk?
I don't know.
That should be looked into.
I don't think that's an issue like, yeah,
I
they're,
don't care what age they are.
I would say that, yeah, for someone who's like 5th grade and under, they're using the sidewalk. They use them in other parts of town, so.
There's no bike lanes, I mean, this town.
And you also have a situation for the town, which is not the trees specifically, is trying to slow down speeding on Nearwater. So I know that it's all a combined issue, but cars go super fast. Like, our kids have had a lemonade stand. I know there's others who have done it. I was out there for 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday. There's cars that are going sometimes 50 miles an hour down the street. So if you have a 1st or 2nd grader riding a bicycle on the street, that shouldn't, you can't have, it's not compatible, so they have to go on the sidewalk. So for a while, there was a speed camera and a state trooper, and there's a sign that says, whatever flashes your speed, but it's very rarely enforced that you see someone being pulled over on Nearwater. So I think it's a combination of saving the trees, improving the sidewalk, and limiting, speeding. And it's all only going to work in conjunction. If not, it's a situation where someone could get hurt. And not just kids, I mean, adults are walking on the street as well. So, I think we have to prioritize safety over trees. As much as I like trees, I've spent thousands to save trees on my own property, but I have this kind of terrible feeling every time I'm on Nearwater and I see the kids trying to navigate these obstacles, and then you see a car come speeding down. It's not a safe situation.
Thanks. You're gonna pass? We're kind of going to try to move on. Would you like to speak? Till we get the lady next to you, sure.
Nancy, would you want to speak? Nancy, would you like to speak?
Keep going that way in the second row.
Good evening. I'm Laura Mosier from 16 Edgerton Street. Town government spends a great deal of time planning for the future. You look at population trends to plan for class size and whether schools need to be expanded. You conduct traffic studies to ensure the public safety. We're here to discuss future plans for the town's trees. In our present environment, where we receive a month's worth of rain in one day and 90+ degree heat for a week, our most urgent lesson we have to learn and plan for is that trees are not objects to be taken for granted. Anyone in town who has lived next to a construction site can attest that a mature tree removal alters how the property drains water after a storm. The absence of shade is noticeable in the heat. It affects how every other plant will thrive in its absence. An arborvitae or a Korean dogwood cannot replace an oak or a maple tree. If we choose to be good environmental stewards, Darien will continue to be a beautiful, safe, and environmentally useful place to live.
Hi, I'm Kristen Harris at 116 Nearwater Lane. We have, for myself and our family, it's an issue of safety, 100%. We have small children, and I echo the comments that were stated earlier. A combination of the cars driving excessive speeds and children on bikes and walking, it's not a safe place for children or adults. And I say a little prayer every time our two boys head down to the beach, because I know that they're going to end up on the road, and I know that there'll be cars going very closely. And as much as we try to teach them the rules of the road and safety, things happen, and it's a scary place to live when you have that kind of thing on your mind every day. It's also personal safety for myself. I jog throughout the neighborhood every day, and I don't jog on that sidewalk in the section that we're talking about, because I've sprained my ankle 3 times now, and I'm tired of it. So I refuse to jog on the sidewalk, and I end up on the road for that reason. I'm a strong jogger, so it's not about that. It's about the sidewalk buckling underneath me and causing me to fall and trip. So from a personal perspective, and on behalf of joggers out there, we all have that concern, I think. I also see, because I'm on the road every morning for a while, I see how the parents and caregivers with strollers handle these areas of the sidewalk, and it's really hard to negotiate through there. They can't always do it, especially if they've got a double wide stroller, and even if they don't, there's not a lot of room there. So I see them walking on the street as well, with their baby strollers. I see people walking their dogs, avoiding that area as well. So it really affects a host of different types of people and situations, and for in all of these cases, it's a safety issue. So that's our concern, and especially with on behalf of my family, my 2 young children. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Will Harris. My family and I live at 116 Nearwater Lane, and my family includes myself, my wife, and our 2 children. And We support the removal of the posted trees to provide a safer, a more secure, and a less risky situation along Nearwater Lane. When we moved to this neighborhood 7 years ago, one of the things we were particularly excited about was the sidewalk. And because we had small kids and we thought it would afford us a safe way for the kids to get down to the beach and the kids get to school. And in fact, what we've experienced and what we've seen on the safety front is the need for both our own children and others, as well as adults, to go off the sidewalk and onto the road, particularly in that section. I went out and stood for a bit the other day, and I didn't want to take pictures of people who don't know me, but the number of people who kind of go right around that section to avoid what's a particularly bumpy and closed up section is slightly concerning. And they're doing that in a section of the street where people drive particularly fast. And then when they get up to the part that has been fixed, they go back up on the sidewalk. On security, which hasn't been touched on as much yet, the trees and branches go up through the other utility lines, and we've seen branches hanging from them after storms. We've experienced outages more and more as the years go on and as we continue to get more storms. It does seem like now is different in that way, and we are getting more severe weather and more risk of people not having the basic utilities for an extended period of time. And then on the risk part, my kids have fallen on the uneven sidewalk and scraped themselves. I've also scraped myself trying to navigate pushing things through the tight areas. And it's only a matter of time until something worse happens. And I don't think the right time is to wait until after something bad happens. The right time is to do something before. So for these reasons, to help provide a safer, a more secure, and a less risky situation, both for my family and for others who use that sidewalk, which encompasses a lot of the town, I support the removal of those trees. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen. Tom Halsh, 2 Juniper Road.
Tom Walsh,
Halsh, H-A-L-S-C-H. We've lived at this address for over 20 years, and we fully support the town's efforts to install a safe and appropriate sidewalk for pedestrians and cyclists, and therefore the removal of trees to facilitate this. Mr. Cotta, you and I spoke when you were out in the field, and I saw you hitting a few of those trees with a mallet, and they're hollow inside, they're dead. We've spoken informally to the Department of Public Works as well over the years. Every day when transiting Nearwater, we observe pedestrians, joggers, cyclists on the sidewalk entering the road between 147 and getting back on up near Nickerson or the land trust, beyond the land trust property. Caretakers with strollers, children going to and from Hindley. At the corner of Juniper and Nearwater, kids get the bus. The trees right across from there are dead. I perished the thought of one of them falling on anyone but little kids waiting for a school bus. Families with wagons full of gear going to Weed Beach. And I'm really surprised there hasn't been an accident to date. We enjoy living in a leafy, beautiful community. I think that me and many of us take for granted. We love trees, but I think the ones in question pose a pretty significant liability for the town and should be removed. Thank you.
Thanks. I guess that gets us back. Is there a third row there? Yeah, I think that you're right.
My name is Laura Peschgray, Pesce-Gray. I'm at 11 Parsons Walk. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I felt very compelled. I have represented the Darien Environmental Group. I also worked with the middle school on a give back campaign on planting trees and the importance of trees. We planted 3 trees 3 years ago, and those trees, they were about 5 feet, scrawny. They haven't, there's no significant growth in terms of like taking down a 50-year-old, 100-year-old mature, these trees on Nearwater are tremendous. And replanting, unless you're buying a mature, expensive tree, you can't really replace that or replenish that. I know that there is, I understand, and I'm glad I came here tonight to hear both sides. It sounds like there's a big safety issue with children, and that's incredibly important. People build homes around trees to save trees. I would imagine, and I hear tonight that there is the ability of saving. I'm hoping we could save, certainly if there's a dead tree, that should come down, but I don't know why any mature tree should be taken down, especially with the amount of flooding that Darien experiences. And just so you know, I did some research. These oak trees have a root system that's like 1.5 times the size of the canopy. So when you start taking trees down of that magnitude, you're going to have not only street flooding, but house flooding. So if there's a way, and I know that architects figure out a way to build big things around trees to save trees, I hope that we could do that here in Darien. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name's Tier Hesser, and I live at 73 Nearwater Lane. I appreciate everyone's work in this and thoughtfulness in this, and it's been definitely great to hear so many other perspectives. If there's a will, there's a way to sort of think about these 3 trees in particular that really block the sidewalk from being safely used. If we can work around that, great. I don't know if there's a way of these 3 trees in particular. It's just impossible. Like David says, the kids are darting into the street. There are so many kids under 12 that live around Nearwater Lane, in the Bay, on Juniper, on Pasture Lane, in Woodland. All these kids use this major artery going down from Post Road. They come down from Mama Carmela's. They go all the way down to the beach. There are towns all over America where the walkability is becoming more rare, and it's a really special thing in Darien that we have these safe sidewalks. You can't get strollers through it. It's hard to jog. Like everyone, so many people have made these great points. I know there's smaller trees that I think we could work around, but as for the larger ones, I would love to have safe sidewalks, and I'm really in favor of that for the kids, for the adults, for the adults pushing the strollers, and just to encourage everyone to get outside and go on walks and go for strolls and be safe, and let the kids have independence and freedom and be able to go down to Weed Beach and go up and down and safe to school. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jenny Chapman, and I live on 23 Good Wives River Road, and I'm a new member of the DCA Garden Club, and they brought up that, kind of highlighted this, and I'm glad that I did come. It's great living in a town where we can have this dialogue, and I just wanted to say that no one would ever say the life of a child or putting a child's life in danger is worth a tree. So everyone here wants anything dangerous, to not be dangerous anymore. And that just to emphasize, we're, a smart town, we've got really great resources, that there has to be a way to figure out, to take out what is dangerous if there's nothing else available, and, make sure that it is safe for anyone. And, the speed bumps, on my road, it's an issue on Nearwater, so that's not what this hearing is about, but since you're here, John, can we please get some speed bumps? Because I think that would really make a big difference, and they're used in many towns. I know there's been issues because of, the fire department couldn't go fast enough. I hope that's not really the reason they're not there, because that's, I don't think, valid. But let's get the speeding issue. I mean, it is a danger for all of our children, every pedestrian who's out there, especially on these kinds of roads that go to the beaches that have a lot of pedestrians. So, I guess that's an ancillary point, but, just let's work together. I think we can, find a solution here. And I know as the tree warden, I think it would be really helpful when we have these mature trees, if we could get transparency and kind of, harking back to Juliet's point about a embedded structure where we list, these are the trees. These are the ones that have to come out because we've looked into this and there is no other way to do it and maintain safety. These trees are going because they're invasive trees and we don't want them around because, they're bringing invasive bugs, etc. And these are trees that we are investing, and we assume that investment as a town to save these trees that are going to help save our town. If we don't have these trees, if we keep cutting them down, we don't have 200 years to wait. We don't have 50 years to wait. So as much as we can, it's helping all of us. It's not helping, it really is helping. So I think further transparency so people could see. Because I'm still confused about, if we already had a conversation that we could save a bunch of trees, why do we still have to have the hearing? And that, to me, seems to think that we haven't had a transparent where we're saying we've had the conversation and here's the plan, and we've done everything we can to save these trees. And as a town, I said, I just think that we have to start to take on that. It's going to be a little bit more investment to do this. But that is the cost of saving, saving our coastal waterways, saving our properties, and trying to mitigate the, increases in temperature that we are experiencing and all the flooding that we're, all going to be experiencing. And trees are such an amazing way, right, to help with that. And as you said, we don't get that with the saplings. So more speed bumps, ancillary issue, and really just more transparency so that when we kind of have something mass like this in a very noticeable area with trees that are magnificent, that we list those trees out. I don't expect it in a huge where we've got hundreds of trees, but I think something like this would have been very helpful to maybe have had that. And if you did have that, then I apologize. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jordan Tamaccio. I'm at 10 Plymouth.
Jordan
Tamaccio. It's long. And I'm at 10 Plymouth.
10 Plymouth Road, that's down in the bay.
Yes, that's right. So I hear everything, and I totally agree with the people that the trees are buckling the road and people go far too fast on the road, and it's extremely unsafe for the children as they walk up and down. My concern and the reason why I came tonight is there are a lot of trees that were marked that don't appear to be impacting the road. So my concern is that why are we marking additional trees that don't appear to be impacting it? And I'd love to know why we added those trees to the list. It looks like there was an initial list made and 3 additional trees were added post-mortem as well. So similar to this lovely person here who asked questions, I'd like to know why we added more trees and why certain trees who won't be impacting the road and haven't impacted the road were added to the list. And just that question.
Any questions?
Good question. And then also I'd like to know who's the company that we use for knocking down the trees? Is there a bidding process for that, and is that transparent as well?
Depends what the Public Works Director wants to do. He's got a special appropriation for the sidewalks.
Got it. And is it one company specifically that we always use, or do we bid all of them out?
He can use whoever he wants.
And, okay. Who do we use for knocking down the trees typically?
My name is Darren. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works.
Yeah.
And I work for Ed Gentile. He's the Director of Public Works. We're here tonight to collect all information that we can. And the Director of Public Works is directly responsible for the tree budget, appropriating trees. And I can tell you that the Director of Public Works is going to discuss all the comments here tonight with our tree warden and decide on the expenditure of removing or pruning trees or not removing and pruning trees.
Perfect. So just as a follow-up, after the meeting, we'd love I know some of us would love to know, one, what trees are not being removed, and two, what company we're using for it. Thank you.
Gentlemen, does this mean 3 people are deciding? You're talking about the public works and then 2 other people? So is it
Excuse me?
3 people who are deciding what trees are coming down?
The tree warden is in charge of
Right,
the public trees,
right.
okay? The director of public works has direct responsibility over the tree budget and the expenditure of the tree budget.
Right.
Director of public works is also responsible for sidewalks and roads, so.
We
The
only
director
try-
of public works is going to be very involved.
So it's 2 people,
The tree warden and the director of public works.
tree warden and you.
Those are the 2 main people, yeah.
Okay.
Well, we want to get on with the public hearing. The way that you spoke, who's to the, I guess would be my left, her right? You'd like to come up and speak? I think we're in the 3rd row. Yeah, the 4th row.
Hello. Hello. My name is Trent, and my name is Pia Devlin, and we live on.
Did you get the names?
No.
Oh, yeah, you want
How about the address?
12 Plymouth
12 Plymouth, thank
Road.
you.
Pia and Trent Devlin.
Did you get the names down?
No, I'll get it
Later.
later.
Well, you're gonna have a lot to get if you didn't get them right. I'm sorry, go ahead, speak, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the trees, did you ever know? Have you ever asked the animals? Those are their homes. The animals live in the trees. There's squirrels. There's all different kinds of animals that live in the trees. You're taking down their homes. Have you ever asked them?
And as he was saying, those are the animals' homes, and you're just taking them down, and they're oxygen for people too.
Is that it? Thank you for having us. This is Tom Devlin from 12 Plymouth Road, Pia and Trent's father. We came here tonight for 2 reasons. One, to see this process. We appreciate the process. We appreciate hearing all the different perspectives on this topic. I'm an early morning walker on Nearwater. Like others have talked about on the safety concern, I also am one of those people that has to go out onto the street. So I appreciate the difficulty, the difficult decision that you have in front of you. But like Mrs. Tamachia said, I think there's probably a solution where not all of the trees have to be removed, and you can probably take down certain trees that are really impeding the sidewalks and leave others. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hard act to follow there. Simon Jones, 30 Plymouth Road. I'm in the, we'll call it the safety camp today, but also finding more more solutions to the problem than just cutting down all the trees that are marked there right now. So there are certainly some places on the sidewalk where it is unsafe. My 4 kids are on the road. When we had a double wide stroller, we had to bring that on the road, people speeding down the road. So from a safety perspective, I do agree there are some trees that need to be remediated, but I don't know if there was enough work done to look at alternate solutions, which have obviously been found with a little bit of extra work. I appreciate that there's budgets and time constraints, but it seems like that extra work is definitely worth it, and I would like to see some of those trees that aren't impinging on the sidewalk be removed from the list of those that are being taken down. Thanks.
I guess we're still in the back row. Yeah, good.
Hi, Abigail Hausberg. I live at 6 Pratt Island. in Darien.
6?
6 Pratt Island.
Thank you.
And I do before I start, I do actually want to thank these women here for filing an objection, which actually caused this hearing to be held in the first place. I was away for 6 weeks, just came back last week, and actually was walking in that section and saw the signs, noticing that removal of the trees would be occurring, and that I had 10 days to object, and that those were dated August 1st, and so that my time had lapsed, but I was relieved to see that there would be a public hearing, so thank you very much. I have 3 young kids myself. We spend a lot of time on Nearwater, walking, pushing the double stroller, jogging, riding bikes, so I appreciate all the comments tonight about the safety. I also love trees. Above all, I love tree-lined sidewalks for my children. And so my objection here today is the removal of any trees absent a showing of cause, and that there's no workable solution. And it sounds like here today that perhaps there is, whether it's a sidewalk that doesn't just run, straight and narrow. Maybe a portion of the sidewalk loops around a section of a tree. We returned from Nantucket recently, and they've done amazing things, keeping sidewalks next to giant mature trees. Some of them are buckling, but in other situations, they've been able to move the sidewalks around a tree. So I'm just asking you tonight to consider, other ways to create a safe sidewalk that doesn't include removing all of the trees. And I'd also like to see some sort of study done on what this does for stormwater. If we remove all the trees, will we now have flooded sidewalks? And that's why I'm here tonight. So thank you very much, and thank you to everybody tonight for all of the thoughtful comments too.
Is there anyone in the back row would like to come up? All right, I'm trying to lose my place here.
Hi, I'm Catherine Metcalfe, Metcalfe. I'm at 129 Nearwater Lane. 5 of the trees are on my property or border my property. Your records show it as 4 in the letter sent to me. So I'd like to make a few broad comments and then also just talk about the process and I think what you're seeing here tonight. We moved to town about 3 years ago from New Jersey. At that time, there were 2 dangerous trees on our property that weren't trimmed, adjusted, or addressed in any way. So I'm really surprised that those trees were allowed up as long as they have been. So great that you're taking action on those. However, there are 3 other trees that don't appear to have the same problem, and I'm aghast that you would take all of this all at once. So for Juliet and Elizabeth, thank you for taking a look at the property and at least coming to talk to me. The first time that anyone spoke anything to us is when I happened upon this crew in front of my home. In New Jersey, I would have had notice in advance. You would have spoken to me before you posted material up on these trees, and we would have had a conversation. I'd like to acknowledge many of my neighbors here have appropriately and accurately described the dangerous situation on our street. You have a safety issue that needs to be addressed. Trees are not the solution. So could we take a look at, for example, ongoing maintenance of your sidewalks? The sidewalks that you're talking about have been in disrepair for years. If you can fix a sidewalk problem early, it doesn't become a big problem. So in addition to all of the work that I won't repeat in the interest of time that others have suggested, I think we really need to look holistically at the street. I have a 90-year-old mother. We walk on those sidewalks to St. John's for Mass. I'm as interested in safe sidewalks as everybody else here. At the same time, I really find it unacceptable that there's no plan for replanting, that this wasn't discussed, and that all of these trees have to be taken down all at once. The impact on the canopy, on the aesthetics, and on the look of the street is enormous. I'm not a specialist. I'll leave it to the pros to talk about what the impact is on stormwater and on drainage. But it's very hard for me to believe that all of this has to be done all at once, and importantly, without the input of the community in advance to making any decisions. This type of a meeting is terrific. It would have been even better if it had been done earlier. and before decisions were made on what trees needed to happen. So I'm an advocate for finding good solutions, but I'm also an advocate to having the right conversations on the street. The trees aren't the only thing that are creating a safety issue on Nearwater Lane, and there's a much bigger issue that I kindly ask we take a look at and address. But my overall message is I'd like more timely work on the street. If we're going to preserve the safety of our neighborhoods, the look of Darien, the tree canopy and cover, I think we need to act and look differently than what I've seen in the 3 years living in Darien. Thank you.
I'll bring up the rear.
Hi there. My name is Elizabeth Jensen, and I live at 46 Old Farm Road. It's so amazing to see so many people here. Raise your hand if you felt like the only tree lover in the neighborhood. I mean, it's great to see everybody. I'd like to offer my email address as a connector. If we all want to get together, it's hard to find the other tree people, so I'll give that to you at the end of my little speech here. But I just signed up to become a certified arborist. I'll take in your footsteps. And just started taking classes, and I just wanted to share a couple of overarching things about it that I think are good for all neighbors to know about trees. Fortunately, depending on the studies that you look at, between 30 and 50% of newly planted trees don't survive. So this idea that we can just cut down the trees and replant, and it depends, like is it near a sidewalk, or does it have enough water? So this idea that it's like a renewable crop, like those days are over. The trees are being stressed very badly. The trees that we do have, that we think we're leaving behind, there's so many new illnesses. You've got your emerald ash borer, which I'm sure is your best friend, having to take down so many dead ashes, lanternfly, oak wilt. There's something killing all of our beech trees now. So we feel like we're leaving trees behind, but we're not, because a lot of those guys aren't going to make it. And then when we do work around them, and this is going to be a place that'll be really interesting to partner with the town on, someone mentioned that the root system goes out further beyond the tree. It does. The little tips is how it feeds itself. But even more interesting is that the roots only go approximately 18 inches down, most of them, right? So when we've got a tree and someone just decides to run up along the side of it to plant their privet, they're killing it. And they don't know that because it's not going to actually die until a couple of years later, likely. And as an arborist, please correct me if I'm wrong on any of that. So it's a death by 1,000 cuts, right? If you look at the merit, so many of those trees that they've already planted are already dying. You've got developers that are just coming in and knocking everything down without even letting a resident decide if they want those. And I think overall, I think the town needs to just think of it a little bit more like infrastructure, right? Like really precious infrastructure that can't be replaced in my lifetime, certainly can't be replaced in the lifetime of a lot of the children that are here. And if we don't be careful, we could end up with very little here in this town. So, these ideas of sort of working around it, I think it makes a lot of sense because the trees are already struggling so much that I think we have to be really thoughtful to see how we can help them. So anyway, that's all I have to say. My email is elizabethjensen9@aol.com if anyone wants to stay in contact. And thank you.
Thanks. You're in the back row. Does anyone else in the back row want to share? And we're going to give the people that came in late an opportunity to speak too. You want to let them speak first, John, or you want to go?
I'll go last.
Yeah, you can go over here. Anyone, no one else in the audience? I think you're good.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rubia Del Piaz. I live in 79 Linden Avenue.
Did you get the address?
79 Linden Avenue.
79 Nearwater?
No, here, Darien. 79 Linden Avenue.
Linden Avenue.
Linden.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I am very brave, and I am sorry because my love for Darien is better than my English. And I live in Darien for the last almost 2 years. And after 3 months living here, we decided to buy a home to stay here with kids at least for the next years. I would like to tell you, I born and grew up in a small city And like 30 years ago, and I was children, I don't know why, people began cutting trees and putting fencing in the garden. People didn't value nature. The city has, since this time, city is ugly, and when I come back there, it's a sad and poor city, because you arrive in a small city without trees is sad, is poor. Everyone who lives here in Darien and came to live here in Darien likes peaceful and nature. They like trees. And everybody, when talk about Darien, talk about good schools and beautiful nature. And they tell it's a perfect city to live. And so I'm here to ask, let's preserve nature. I understood today maybe that is necessary, but I think cut trees will not solve the problem. I think the town hall is smarter than cut trees. We can improve the sidewalk, but integrate nature and improvements. This brings and will bring more value for our city. Thank you.
You want to speak? You speak.
Flora Smeaton. I'm at 124 Leroy Avenue. I wasn't planning to speak today, but after listening to everybody, it's useful to hear all sides. But I just have a few pointers that I'd like people to think about, especially those making the decisions. In Europe, you see more kind of rubberized sidewalks, which kind of grow up and around the trees. I wonder if anybody's ever thought about that. I noticed it especially in Italy this year, and they have trees that grow up, and the sidewalk, I don't know if it lets water through, if it's permeable, but it certainly seems to move with the tree roots, and that would be a way of avoiding some of the tripping factors if you're putting new sidewalks in. If you're putting new trees in, I wonder if we start an adopt a tree program so that the new trees, if people are talking about them, they don't make it, 3 out of 5 trees don't make it. And I've done my share of seeing a wilted tree and taking a watering can and watering it, down the road from me, even though I don't know who owns it, but it looked sickly, so I've watered it. But I wonder if we are planting new trees, that we ask town members, citizens, to adopt a tree and take care of that tree for the first 5 years if they can, and water it and look after it and make sure the weeds are clear or something like that, so that they aren't just planted and then forgotten about, because that's a waste of money, putting trees in and then just letting them die. And I do believe that new trees are part of investment of the town, and old trees, obviously, large growth trees. You can't just replace small ones and say, well, that's the same thing. So I just wanted to make those points. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Or no one else? Everyone's got a chance to be heard. All right, John, you're up. I guess you can take us out.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Zagrodzky. I'm the first selectman. A couple of points. One is just kind of talking about traffic on Nearwater. So one thing to understand about how traffic's managed in this town is that the authority for doing that rests with what is called the Legal Traffic Authority. And in Darien, that's the Police Commission. So that's a 3-member commission that actually runs our police department, appoints the chief of police, and is responsible for not just the police, but all traffic enforcement, traffic rules, signages, speed bumps, anything that's been talked about tonight. The Legal Traffic Authority actually makes those decisions, and they make them independent of kind of the rest of the town authority structure. So one of the things I would urge you to do is to reach out to the police commission and to the chief of police and to make those specific concerns known. They do take them seriously. They do a number of traffic studies. They've looked at traffic intersections, speeding, curves all over town, and have thought about them pretty deeply. Those are not easy issues to resolve, and inevitably there's a compromise on some of that. So definitely, if you have those concerns, I can relay them myself, but please reach out to Legal Traffic Authority. That's the destination for that type of discussion, yes.
Are they responsible for bike paths?
Yes.
Bike lanes too?
Yep, all of that. Bike paths, they decide that. So sometimes you'll see painted bike paths on roads in other towns like that. They're also responsible for making those decisions. Second is, I think, has been amply demonstrated today, there's a lot of competing interests when you think about this, right? So one is the safety of the road itself. Two is the safety of the sidewalk. Three is the safety of some of these trees. When Juliet and Elizabeth came by to see me, Juliet and I started, and we met with Ed, and I declared a field trip. And we actually went to Nearwater, and we walked the entire length, and we looked at every single tree that's on this list. It's educational, right? To see not just the trees, but to see that part of the sidewalk that's actually damaged, and to see someone with a stroller go into the street to go around that section of the sidewalk. And I think where we came out was, and further to that, when you go up and look at some of these trees, as the tree warden has pointed out, it's not just that some of these trees are hollow, some of these trees are severely damaged. Have you guys gone up and actually carefully looked at every one of these trees? It is educational, right? There's one tree that's got a hole so large that it's filled with dirt, and there's a tree of another species that's growing inside that hole, right? And so when we talk about preserving trees, and Juliet's a star. Does everybody in here know Juliet Kane? Yes, okay, if you don't know Juliet Kane, she's a star. Elizabeth is a star too, right? These are my stars right here. And so what they've done for me is that they've helped my education process on this. What I think that field trip did for them is illustrated some of the concerns that have been brought up here tonight, which is it ain't easy to keep sidewalks in this town, right? They do have to be, for ADA compliance, a particular width. There is a way to shorten it if there's a turnaround and all that, but these are not simple rules to comply with. And if several people have pointed out, they want a straight or at least a flat with a minimal curve sidewalk for children's safety, for people to walk with strollers. You got to have that. And there were several trees there that we might not have wanted to take down, but it's simply impossible to put the sidewalk there, right? There's no way to get the sidewalk where we need without taking down that tree, and that's unfortunate. But as we saw there, many of these trees are not the picture of health either. They've been around a long time. Even the elm tree that speaks to you, which I love that tree at 141.
I never liked that tree.
I love that tree. She drove by. We were standing there. She drove by, and you were in your car. She's fantastic too, by the way. She stops there.
Old lady.
No, she's 29 and holding, right? So she stops by, rolls down her window, and what she says, you were there, she says, "This tree speaks to me." That's it. That's all she said. And then we had a conversation about it, and I totally get that, right? We should be preserving nature where we can, but we've also got to provide for safe sidewalks for children. We have to provide sidewalks for strollers, for the runners who were here. All of that has to be taken into account. So where I think we got to was a workable compromise, right, that said there's a couple of these trees that will do a walk around. The elm tree at 141 actually does not impact the sidewalk, but it's not in great shape, but it's right there. It is not in great shape. It's speaking, but in a gravelly voice, right? Hard to understand. My point is that I think we can get to a compromise that allows this sidewalk to be maintained and rebuilt while preserving some of those trees. But the reality is that some of them are going to have to come down. And so what I would urge everyone here to do is first of all, kind of my commitment. One of the things that I've tried to do is improve communication on lots of things, and partly on this. You and I have talked a number of times about that, and I'm serious about that, right? I want to know when somebody's got an issue with something like that, the last thing you should feel is government is not listening. There may be other people who get busy, and by the way, these gentlemen up here, I would remind you that in our Public Works Department, these are 2 of 33 members of our Public Works Department. Those guys maintain 81 miles of roads, 81 miles of sewers, more than 2,000 manhole covers, all of our pump stations, the maintenance of all the buildings, including this one, all around town. with just those number of people, you just don't know how shocking it is that they're able to get all the work that they get done with that few people. It is amazing, right? And so if they've missed talking to you, or you feel like there's not been information on something, I assure you it's not because they don't care. It's because they have got a tremendous amount on their plate. But I have an open door, and I want to hear from it, and I'm serious about that. We should have dialogues about things like that. But I just want everybody to take away from here that this was a productive discussion. We're trying to get to the best solution that compromises across these various interests. We all want to preserve a tree canopy. We need straight sidewalks. I want the traffic to slow down, but I don't want a lot of traffic to sit in, right? I want, this particular area of town not to be disturbed, but I really need a new school too, right? So how do you make all these trade-offs? You know how you make them? You just make the trade-offs, and that's where we've ended up. And so hopefully you take away from tonight that we've had a thoughtful discussion about this. I assure you, we are very mindful of all of this, but we're also mindful of the trade-offs that we need to make so that in the aggregate, Darien remains a great place with as many trees as we can keep, with as safe a sidewalk as we can have, with traffic managed in the best way that we can, such that it's slowed down but not too slow, right? All of these compromises I think we're trying actively to make. And if you feel we're not making those compromises, by God, I want to hear from you. Tell me, right? Show me where that was not working, and we'll take a look at it and try to do better, okay? Ma'am.
Quick question, John. If there was a tree conservancy, would that tree conservancy group be, could they have conversations? Because we did have a tree conservancy years ago, and I've worked with Mike Cotta and Darren and on a downtown tree plan and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't seem, it's almost like we'll wait until they go away and then we don't have to deal with them anymore. So my feeling is if there was a tree conservancy or a tree commission or whatever you want to call it, where there could be dialogue before this. I loved what the woman in the corner said. I think that have a conversation before those trees are even posted to come up with plans to save as many trees and yet have the safety of our sidewalks or whatever we're talking about. But I feel like it's an urgency. Mike was telling us, well, now you only have X number of days before it goes to the second grade. Why even enter into that kind of conversation when you can come up with solutions before it becomes an issue?
Yeah, I'd consider that. We had a tree conservancy for a while, and I knew some people were on it.
I was a founder of it.
It died. Why?
I stopped doing it because I went on to other things, and Sabina Harris has all the
Went on to other, I know her well.
We're a 501c3, and
I sent them money.
It just petered out. But I think it's important. Julia had a great lecture at the Darien Library a few months ago, and I just feel like there is enough interest, to kind of support our tree canopy and the health of our trees, and for a tree conservancy or a tree commission, to work with the town, to kind of identify things before it becomes an emergency.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. It requires sustained citizen interest, right? Not episodic citizen interest. And unfortunately, something like this is a big draw, right? Everybody will come out to this because we're talking about a discrete problem. But where this type of work gets tedious, as both of you ladies know, is the day-to-day work where you're paying close attention to all that. And that takes not just time and effort, but some expertise as well, right? Not just a passion for it, but certainly I can tell you that Mike's knowledge is all this stuff is encyclopedic. You talk to him about all this stuff, he is extremely knowledgeable about this.
But there's also judgment and common sense that goes along with this, and sometimes I don't think that is considered.
No, I think there's.
Hang on.
Fair.
I'd like to add something on this, though, because I am a little worried about the tone in the discussion.
Hold
If
on.
you'd like to respond first, feel free.
If you don't mind. Those are not unreasonable points at all. Okay. All I would say is that I think there's plenty of good judgment here. What I think has been missing is simply communication and dialogue and reinforcement of this notion that ultimately across not just trees but everything that goes on in this town. I've been in this job about 10 months now, and I've been in government. I've been an elected official in this town for almost 16 years consistently. And I thought I really kind of understood things. I assure you, you do not understand how to sit in this job at that desk with those flags. And when you do this all day, and this is about a 50-hour-a-week job, you'd be shocked how much time this effort takes. I love it. I wouldn't change it. But what you see is you're at the intersection of all of these different types of problems and compromises. And what we're trying to do is both get that trade-off right and also feel like everybody says, no, it wasn't perfect. I see the trade-offs. I did have a voice at the table. I did have a chance to talk to the decision makers on all that. And we just got to work with the staff and the budget and everything we have to do the best we can on that. Could we reestablish a tree conservancy? Yeah, the behind the scenes work to do all that, not trivial, right? Not trivial. And the tree world changes every day. So I'd consider that, but you'd have to come to me with a proposal and some energy to actually do that kind of work. Yes?
John, I appreciate the tone of conciliation and compromise. I'm not beyond that. I would like to just point out that I'm absolutely aghast at the town's reliance on private individuals and on people volunteering their time to bring up these issues and address them, given the dollar amount I pay in taxes. It's astronomical. And I would hope that our town would be able to afford studies not done by community volunteers, not done by people who have to run not-for-profits themselves, but to actually take the time. I know there are a lot of competing interests for money, but we all live in Darien for a reason, and we're paying a lot of money to live here. So I would like to see less dependence on the people and more solutions in the town. In fact, I've been the head of communications, publicly traded companies, in a Fortune 4 company. And if I can volunteer my time to help you in how to better communicate with the community, I'm more than happy to do so.
Terrific. Thank you.
I'm totally with you because if it wasn't clear, what I was trying to say was I do think we need a system that's embedded in our government. But I would also like to give huge credit to John because I've been knocking on this town hall's door for several years now.
She's got calluses on her knuckles.
Can't get my rings off. And John has been extremely responsive and has spent a lot of time with me, probably more than he wants to. And
how could you not with that mellifluous voice?
Oh, it can get really bad. So I would like to say thank you to John because this is the first time where I feel that we are having a collaborative process. This is the first public hearing, like I said before, that I've ever been to where there's been to and fro. In fact, I was going to complain about the public hearing process in my talk, but as things were becoming quite collegial, I thought, well, I shouldn't because I think John's presence here shows his commitment to these issues, that he's taking this seriously. I am still trying to say we need a system in place. My big hope is the plan of conservation and development, and John would like a lot of public input on that. And I think if we can have a working document that one way or another, it puts some responsibility on the town for doing these things, then we'll start to see change. Tree conservancy is fantastic. I'm kind of indifferent whether we have one or not. I think it would be a wonderful addition, but to me it doesn't resolve or absolve the town of responsibility for doing things. It would be, somebody helping, but again, it's volunteer time, and I give a lot of time. I get double booked. I can't remember what I'm doing. So I think it's really good if we can have more responsibility within town. And I know I'm a worn record, but I'm trying to.
Yeah, I agree with everything Juliet says. In that regard. No, I do. I take that seriously, and let's continue these dialogues. Interestingly, the rules for public hearings is the public's supposed to speak. Those two guys are just supposed to listen, and the public hearing's over.
3 minutes only.
Right, and so I violated all those rules today, so I don't know if the police are there to arrest me for violating rules, but I think it is important to have these dialogues, and we take all these concerns seriously, and let's see if we can get to the trade-offs we need. Okay. I appreciate everybody coming tonight. Gentlemen,
Yeah,
pass it back.
thank you everyone for coming, and I'd like to just close the public hearing. Thanks for coming out.
Sorry.